We're talking about Morrison's. It's just opened up between the railway stations in Wigan. We've got 2 railway stations in Wigan. It's a long story and I can't be bothered going through it now because it's unimportant, because I'm not talking about railways, I'm talking about electric cars. So yeah, Vauxhall have said that they may have to shut factories in the UK that they were going to make electric cars at, because bizarrely the batteries are not being made in the UK because we haven't got anywhere to make batteries. And like, well, even though the batteries are made in the UK, the stuff that they make the batteries is not from the UK. I had a gentleman in the shop today who, I'm not sure what country he came from, but he was a really knowledgeable young man, and he was saying that his country is being basically stripped of all their precious metals, etc., by greedy companies, most of them from China. Who knew? And it's all for car batteries, and this is why I keep saying that electric cars are not the way forward. Electric buses, yay. Electric lorries, yay, because it's a quick fix for heavy polluters. Electric taxis, same reason. But every other car, no. Emissions on cars that are being built now are really low, and it's going to take forever to replace these cars. So don't replace them with something that's going to give the kids of the future or the leaders of the future a headache about to get rid of all the batteries from all the cars. And also, where do you keep getting all the... Who keeps texting me? I'm going to switch my phone off. Oh, it's Luke. I won't switch my phone off, it's Luke. He sorry, I was getting angry, but I'm not angry now. Just tuned in at as much petrol prices a day. You want to try long distance in an electric car? Total shambles. This country is not ready to go green. As an electric car driver, it will take me 30 plus years to offset the carbon emissions produced to make my electric car. Yeah, that's exactly my point. Luke Marsden, you remember him from Big Brother and all those kind of things. He also does a bit on Talk TV. Well, not the only one. I'll just ring him up though. I think it's electric well good, but you're not going to put a lot of people out of work who know it's cars. My uncle and granddad own a workshop and a bit scared about all this lecky. I wouldn't worry about it. They'll have long retired before everyone's got an electric car, because no one will have an electric car. You've got to keep digging up all these precious metals. You've got to keep digging up, well, yeah, literally, all the lithium, and then all the metal to wrap the things up in and to ship them all over the world, dig massive holes, big mines everywhere. It's an absolute disaster, environmentally and otherwise. And then you've got to get all the copper, God knows if there's enough copper on the planet, to wire up all the cars all over the world. It's not just in Wigan, it's not just in your city, wherever you are, it's all over the planet. You see in supermarkets now, they've generally got 4 car park spaces for people to plug in their electric cars. That was more than enough 3 years ago. It's nowhere near enough now. So they're going to have to come and put more in. And the problem you've got is, this is more infrastructure you're building, which is using resources. Now, we can't have electric planes. We cannot have battery operated planes. So they're going to have to come up with something else. And the thing to come up with is hydrogen. Now, hydrogen is a viable product. Hydrogen, if stored correctly, is safe. In fact, to be fair, electric cars are not that safe. If they catch fire, they're on fire for about 3 days. So the hydrogen idea is great, and there's one company pushing this, and that is Toyota. So what we need to do is we need to leave all the rest of Europe and all America faffing around building these electric battery factories where they're never going to get enough precious metals continuously to make these batteries. There's going to be shortages all the time because we just haven't got the resources. Either that, we just turn the planet into cheese with big holes in it, and then it'll fall apart and we die anyway. Or so what we do is we invite Toyota into Britain and say, right, you'd go to areas that have been devastated with job losses. So where steel industry is, for example, Redcar, Sunderland, places like that. Places around here. I mean, we've got areas in Wigan where you could build stuff like this. And we let Toyota, at very little cost from the government, they have to obviously invest the money, invest in hydrogen, making hydrogen. And develop the cars, and that way we'll be ahead of everyone else. You don't need to have an infrastructure there. We've already got petrol stations which can be converted to hydrogen. We've already got cars which, with a bit of tweaking, can be converted to hydrogen. We've already got tankers which can be converted to hydrogen. There already is hydrogen being transported around us all the time. You just don't know it. But not enough to power cars. It's lighter. We've had garages collapsing in New York, which may or may not have been caused by considerably heavier cars because of the batteries in them. I mean, batteries are heavy. And then everyone's got an SUV, which means they're even heavier anyway, and then make an electric SUV. You've got something that weighs half the weight of a tank. And that's going on our roads, so that's going to wreck the roads as well. So you're going to have to fix more potholes, you're going to have to strengthen bridges, car parks, all that kind of... It's an absolute non-starter. Electric vehicles, anyone who thinks electric vehicles is a good idea is wrong. I'm sorry, Luke, you bought one, but you should have spoke to me first. It's so true. I don't believe we can have an electric wagon, neither, never mind a plane. No, I think electric wagons, because we've got the capability of building battery vehicles at the moment, we should concentrate on the vehicles which are the highest polluters, and they are public transport, buses, coaches, and your heavy goods vehicles, your articulated lorries, your big rigs, your 18-wheelers, your semis, depending where you are in the world. The stuff that transports goods around. We need to make them electric because they're the ones pumping out more diesel fumes. How many times have you been at some traffic lights and a big articulated lorry set off and a huge plume of black smoke covers your car? It's just, it's just what happened. We need to sort that out. They are the biggest polluters. Any car that's 10 years old or less is hardly polluting anything. And like Luke said as well, if he's still here, to make a battery electric car, the offset of the fact that when you use it you don't use a lot of electricity, you don't use fossil fuels, is offset by the fact that when you make the thing you've got to dig all this stuff up. Oh, here we go. Would you be interested in doing a Zoom with me, Luke, one day? Because this is probably easier. It's cost efficient in terms of petrol and what was spending, but say it's good for the environment is a sham. It's better than a diesel guzzler, but it's still already done its damage. Yeah, and it won't have done its damage yet. Its worst damage will be when it's no longer viable as a car. I mean, can you replace the battery pack in it, or do you have to scrap the whole car? What do you do with the battery pack if you can replace it, or you have to scrap the car? Where do you put it? We cannot put AA batteries or AAA batteries like that. We cannot put them in the bin because it is dangerous for the planet. I know most people do, but you're not supposed to. But we are talking of much bigger than this, so probably a bit thinner than my arm, because I've got girls' wrists, so a bit thinner than my arm, but hundreds of them all lined up together, all wired up together in this pack that's underneath where you sit. How are you going to get rid of them? If you can't get rid of that safely, how the hell are you going to get rid of all that? It's ridiculous. So what we need to do is we need to let everyone else go on that folly of electricity, and we get Toyota in, who are the only companies who seem to be sensibly looking at this, and get Rolls-Royce involved as well, because Rolls-Royce obviously make aeroplane engines, to look at hydrogen and how to make hydrogen cheaper. The problem you have is, if I wanted to make a litre of petrol for some crude oil on my own, it would take forever, not literally, but it would take a considerable length of time, and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of investment to turn a lump of crude oil into petrol. And that's the same place we are at the minute with hydrogen. It's doable, but it's expensive. But the more you do, the cheaper it'll become. The bigger the infrastructure you build, the cheaper it'll become. I mean, we've got Stanlow. Half of Stanlow is not being used nowadays, so that could have been changed into a hydrogen manufacturing plant. Infrastructure's there already. The motorways are there to take it out and about. It just seems it just seems ridiculous that we're being pushed as a planet to electricity when it's just not viable. It's just a ridiculous thing. I mean, they were talking last year, weren't they? Oh, there might be power cuts because of the demand on electricity. Well, next winter, I dare say there's going to be double, if not triple, the number of electric cars that need charging up. So surely that's going to put an even bigger demand on the electric network. Nuclear power is the only real way forward, as far as I'm concerned, for sustainable, because you can always have nuclear power no matter what, whereas wind power and water power and solar power requires the weather to play along. So we need nuclear, but that's going to take years, decades to actually build the infrastructure for that. We can get a lot more out of nuclear power now than what we could in the 60s when the original wind scale and all that were built. Technology has moved on a lot, and it's a lot safer as well, and there's less waste. But the electric cars, now I always get when it comes to electric cars. People say, "Oh, I bought an electric car." I'm like, no, 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 no. Don't buy an electric car. Wait for the hydrogen ones. Meanwhile, sewage companies have been letting out, on average, raw sewage 800 times a day. This is into streams, lakes, meres like Windermere, and the sea, pardon me, 800 times a day. Now they've said that it's going to cost £10 billion to fix it, and it's going to take a considerable length of time. Now, to be fair, a lot of the infrastructure we've got was built in Victorian times, and no town in this country is as the same size and has the same population as it did when the sewage was built. The sewage system was built, sorry. So yeah, it's going to take a lot, but one would assume that many cities in particular have already had their systems upgraded. You put a tower block in with 300 flats, apartments. They've all got at least one toilet. If they all flush at the same time, it's unlikely, but it's possible. All that crap literally is going to come down to the ground floor and go into the sewer system. So they've got to have a sewer system that can cope with that. And if you build 5 of these in an area, then you've really got to spend money on the sewer system. Now they've just left it with the sewer system that was there already. Then no wonder we've got all these problems we've got now. The thing that really annoys me is this billion pound bill is going to be paid by the public of Great Britain. Now, if it was a nationalised company, i.e. if it was the government that ran it, then you'd be like, well, it's another tax, it's a bit annoying, but, fair enough. But no, all these companies are private companies. Most of them are owned by people who don't even live in the UK, at the very top of them. So they're still getting their profits, they're still getting their bonuses, they're still getting their money for having shares in a company, whilst they expect us to pay to upgrade their system so in the future they can make more money. No. We should all immediately, without fail, everyone, stop paying your water rates. 100%. Just stop paying it until they figure out that they bought that, and you buy something. Here we go again, another car analogy. If I buy a car, obviously not a Ferrari, not a race car, but if I buy a car that's second hand, and I buy it bought as seen, then I know I'm going to have to spend money on this car. I'm going to have to sort the brakes out, I'm going to have to buy new tyres for it every now and then, service it. But because it's an old car, it's a classic, there's a strong possibility that I might have to get some welding out and do some strengthening of the bodywork. The engine might be knackered, I might have to buy a new engine for it. These companies have bought water companies with infrastructure that was built in Victorian times. They knew that when they bought it. So why the hell are we being told that we have to pay for the repairs of something that they bought and they've made money off for years and will make more money off in the future? It's an absolute joke. It's an absolute waste of time. A waste. No, if you buy something and it doesn't work, it's not up to the people who you bought it off to fix it. I could hardly go back to Enzo Ferrari and say, excuse me, I bought this car, it was built, 60 years ago and it's broke. I want you to fix it. It's still under warranty. No, it's not under warranty. You've bought and made money from an infrastructure that includes the water coming to the houses, and then obviously the sewage and the drainage from the rain and everything else going away from the houses. You bought that as seen. You knew that that was like that. If you've not invested in that and now all of a sudden we've got this problem, then you should sort it because you paid for it. It's yours, it's not ours. We don't own it, you own it. And as someone said on Question Time, I can't remember who it was now, I think it was a commentator of some kind. He was on Question Time a couple of weeks ago and he said, easiest way to solve it is, if they do it more than a number of times, the people at the top of the company go to jail for 5 years. Because if it was me, if I decided to go outside and have a wee and a poo in my local river, I would get fined for that. I would get possibly put in prison for it. If I was to collect all the wee and the poo from my block in a big bucket and chuck it in the river, I would 100% get fined for it. But water companies are charging us for repairing literally their shit because they haven't looked after it. They bought it in the condition it was in when they bought it. They knew what the condition was. Why the hell should we pay for it now? Oh, great point. We pay with our taxes to gain their profits. Yes, indeed. As a ground worker, I know it's not just an easy fix, so 10 billion is probably an underestimate if they ain't lying. And you can't just put a new sewer in, it's not like that. No, I agree. I'm not saying that putting a sewer in is easy, and I'm not saying it's cheap. What I'm saying is, these companies bought the infrastructure that was there and has been there for decades, knowing that the infrastructure was there and been there for decades, and therefore needed maintenance, and therefore needed upgrading at times, and have done nothing about it, except take the profits. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, expecting it to be able to withstand everything that's going on because it was built by the Victorians and the Victorians made things to last. Yeah, they did make things to last. Certainly more than Wigan Council did when they give the planning permission for the galleries, which they're currently knocking down after 30 odd years. But, buildings were made to last and infrastructure was made to last. But they could never have predicted the amount of people using it. Plus, when the infrastructure was built, no one had a bath. A lot of people didn't even have a toilet. You had basically a bucket that was emptied. So the infrastructure that they put in was future-proof to a degree. But these companies have bought it, they've made profits from it. We know they've made profits from it because they have to declare the profits. And they're now saying, oh, sorry, all this infrastructure we've got isn't good enough for what we need to do, so we need to charge you lot £10 billion to pay for the upgrade. And I'm like, no, we are not paying £10 billion for your mess that you bought knowing what you were buying. It's not like you go somewhere and, buy a car without looking at it, without even seeing a picture of it. Just give someone 20 grand and get a car and it's a clapped out mini Metro with 3 wheels on it. These guys knew what they were doing. These companies knew they were buying something that they could make money from. Otherwise they wouldn't have bought it. But what they haven't done is invested in it, and they haven't kept up with the demand. You go around Manchester, and no doubt other cities around the country as well, and just see how many massive tower blocks have been put up, all of which, whether they're offices or apartments, irrelevant, they've all got toilets, they've all got running water going up, they've all got running water coming down, and that infrastructure has got to go somewhere. And if they haven't upgraded the system and now their system is suddenly overloaded, oh no, what are we going to do? Well, let's just pump it into the local river. No, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. You can't buy a house that's falling apart and then complain it's not perfect. Yeah. A new video coming soon. Elder goes to the river for 1 week. The only thing we can do is stop giving them the money. That's the only thing we can do. Stop paying them. At the end of the day, water is a human right. I don't necessarily think we should pay for it anyway, other than getting it to and from us. It's just, it's just annoying. Anyway, that's 2 rants I've had today. My God, I thought I'd have a quick one today, but no, we're just ranting and ranting and ranting. Meanwhile, pardon me, in Northern Ireland, there's other stories. In London, you won't know about this, but I watch London news because I was just fed up of seeing the same news in the northwest. So I thought, right, let's go to London, watch London news. Cars registered in outer London, 16% would be charged every day for driving around London. So that's cars that are actually registered in London, the outer London area, because they're expanding the congestion charge and ultra low emission zones in London. 16% of them would be charged every single day for being used. They might be charged just for being parked up. I don't know. It depends where the camera is. It is needed in cities. I kind of get that a little bit, but I think sledgehammer to crack a nut. Like I've said before, if every car in the United Kingdom was electric, heaven forbid, and there was no emissions. We only used solar power and wind power. We had no other emissions coming out whatsoever. It wouldn't make a jot of difference to the planet. All this is a way of charging people money for trying to get on with their lives who can't necessarily afford to pay 40 grand for a brand new car that would get through and not be charged. I get the meaning of it. I get all that, but it's just taking the mickey now. And the 15-minute cities, the idea of a 15-minute city is wherever you live, everything you need is within 15 minutes of your house on foot. So that would be shops, a school, a hospital, a park, work, everything you'd ever want, sports centres, everything. They would all be within a 15-minute walk of your house. So why the hell would you need to go out of your area? So what we're going to do is, if you leave your area more than 50 times a year, 100 times a year, 200 times a year, we will get you on camera doing that, and we will charge you every time you leave over that limit that we've set, be it 50, 100, 150, 200 a year. So you would incur charges for actually leaving with it getting further away than a 15-minute walk from your house. And I'm like, why don't they just bolt us in our houses like they did during lockdown, brick up all the doors, and then just post food through the letterbox? Because that seems to be what they're trying to do at the moment. It's like they're trying to get the population to just stay in a small area. It's like the Middle Ages again, where everyone had a village, and you kind of lived in your village. You were born there, you grew up there, you had children there, you died there, you were buried there. You never left the village in the Middle Ages. Now we've got to the situation where you can go all over the world, blah blah blah, but you can't go to 5 streets away from your house without being charged for it, or go and visit your relatives in another part of town. Basically what they do is they have the town centre in the middle, and then outside, not exactly like a cake, but imagine a cake, and then you're in one of those slices of the cake. Now each one of them cakes is a 15-minute zone, so everything you need is within that slice of cake. And if you travel by vehicle, motorised vehicle, car, over the boundaries, and it doesn't specify whether electric cars are exempt or not, so you go over the boundary, it's registered that that car has gone over the boundary today at such a time, and it returned at such a time. So that's 2 crossings that they've done that day, and then they do it again, so that's 4, and then a week is 10, a month is 40, 50, a year hundreds. Oh, you can't do that. Oh no, we're going to fine you now. And then they charge you every time you leave. Um, electric cars are the future. It's a short future though. Yeah. Them emission charges are also killing businesses. Don't forget. Exactly. If you're a plumber, talking of which, I need a plumber. If anyone knows a good plumber, if you're a plumber or a builder or whatever, or even a delivery driver, and you have to travel to your jobs to do your work, you're going to get charged. Plus, because your van, more than likely, unless you're a rich builder and rich plumber, is not going to be electric, therefore it's going to be pumping out noxious emissions, then you are going to have a charge levied on you higher than someone in their car. But they charge everyone. Certain businesses have had to sell their whole fleet of wagons because of it and buy new ones. Yeah, exactly. And all that's happened is those wagons have gone somewhere else to pollute somewhere else. We've now got double the amount of wagons on the road because we've got the new wagons that have come in, which, let's be honest, they're not going to be electric. They might be better on emissions, but they're still going to be pumping out emissions. And we've now got all the old wagons somewhere else polluting the atmosphere for some other poor sod. It's just moving the problem. It's just weird, and I just don't get why people are allowing them to get away with it all. It does. I say this a lot. It's a good word, actually. It baffles me. I get baffled. I go, I did on Friday as well. No, it's not solved anything. No, of course it hasn't. Look, it's not like they've had to sell their wagons. They're not going to scrap their wagons and say, all right, fair enough, fair cop, Gav. Right, all our fleet of wagons, just chuck them in the scrapyard, break them up. We don't, and then we'll buy loads of new ones. No, you have to sell. They might have had 10 wagons. They've sold the 10 wagons, but they could probably only afford to buy 8 because new wagons cost a lot more than old wagons. So that means a couple of people might lose their jobs or whatever. It's unlikely that they'd have been able to buy 10 wagons to replace 10 wagons. But those 10 wagons that they've sold will have gone somewhere else. They won't have gone in a scrapyard. It's not like a scrappage scheme thing. The government don't do scrappage schemes for vehicles that cost 100 grand. Elder ranting week, yes. It does feel like an elder ranting week, I have to be honest with you, but I think we need to rant about some stuff, don't we? Because it is just stupid what is going on. Anyway, we got to Thursday. No, we didn't. We got to Friday. And Friday was Putin Day.